Hi guys, Lemmy here. Welcome back to another video. I just wanted to apologize for disappearing again. My goal was to upload every 2 weeks, but I got COVID, so that kind of threw a monkey wrench into my upload plans. Fear not, I am okay. I had a very mild case, thankfully, and I am all right. I figured I'd talk a little bit about my experience with COVID today, just to I guess share a little bit about what happened to me and the things that I was gonna say suffered from, but it was so mild that I can't complain. It was just some interesting side effects, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm very fortunate that I'm all right. I am in a high risk group, so I'm just, happy that it all worked out. So this isn't a video meant to complain or anything like that. I am very, very happy that I'm okay and everything is fortunate. It's just I'm going to tell you a series of events that were kind of weird and interesting. And I'd love to hear your input if you've had any experience with COVID, what your experience has been, what side effects have you gotten. Could you taste and smell things? Because a lot of this video is going to be about the whole taste and smell. That was like a very interesting experience for me. So really quickly, I'm just going to go through how I got it. My husband brought it home from work. I've been self-quarantining for a year now because I'm in a high-risk group, but he got it at work. Some guy in another office in the same building got it, spread it through his office, and then spread it through my husband's office, and he brought it home to me. He immediately went and got a COVID test. It came back negative, but I did end up getting sick. It first started as a sore throat, and then it broke into what I would consider a cold. I was congested, I was fatigued, pretty much I was exhausted. I was sneezing instead of coughing, which is uncharacteristic of COVID, and I had a fever, and that was for a larger part of one day. Other than that, I recovered pretty quickly. I'd say within 5 days or so, I was back to normal. But also on the 5th day, I stopped tasting and smelling. And this was the weirdest part of having COVID, because I've never lost these sensations in my life. This is the first time this has ever happened to me. And this is also a cue that maybe I didn't have a normal cold, maybe I had COVID. So naturally, I went and I got tested, and the rapid test, which is the fast one, that came back and said I was negative for COVID. But the one that they sent away, which is more accurate, came back and said I was positive for it. And I think the rapid they were telling me was something to see if I was contagious or something like that. So it tests a very particular thing, so it's not as accurate. Anyway, when I found out I was positive, my husband went and had a COVID test, and he came back negative again. So this is another weird little thing, was that he brought it home to me, but he never got sick at any point. He just carried the germs home to me. And I don't think that a lot of people really notice that, because people will tell me, well, they have the vaccine, so they can't give it to other people. And it's no, you can bring it around with, you touch something that has COVID on it, you're gonna walk around with it. Let's say my husband had a vaccine, that doesn't mean all of a sudden it's gonna just burn off of his fingertips, he's gonna be dragging it around with him. So please do be careful, because even if you don't have COVID, you're not sick with COVID, you can still transport it places. So you'd be surprised how often I hear that, you can't give it to someone else if you don't have it. I'm that's not, it doesn't really make any sort of sense to me. So he transported it to me. Also fair to mention is that my husband knows a guy who got COVID twice, so you can get sick more than once. It's all just food for thought, but be careful when you're out and about. You don't want to get anyone sick, even if you're young and you're fine. You don't want to get somebody sick that could have a bad reaction to it. And you really don't know how anyone's going to react to it, which is the crazy part, right? All right, so now that I got my spiel done, I'm going to talk a little bit about tasting stuff. I noticed that the first thing that I stopped being able to taste was citrus. I had a lemon and it tasted sour, but I couldn't taste the citrus taste of it. It just was kind of sour, and I thought that the lemon went bad. I was like, this is kind of weird, but I already added it to what I was making. And then later on, when we had dinner, I made like a pistachio crusted salmon. I could taste the pistachios, I could taste the salmon, but it was kind of lackluster to me. And I just thought, like, maybe I messed up the recipe somewhere, or it just wasn't, a good piece of fish, or like, I don't know. So I was kind of like, this didn't really taste that great, but my husband really liked it, so I thought that was kind of odd. And then later that night, I had some rye toast and a cup of tea, and I noticed that the bread didn't taste like rye bread. It kind of just had like toast-like texture. Like, I knew it was toast when I was eating it, but it didn't have like the zing of the rye or anything. And the butter had like the consistency, like the oiliness of butter, but it had like a very kind of muffled, subpar butter taste. And then I just thought, like, I don't know, like, what's going on. Maybe like everything is just like, I don't know what's happening. And then when I had the tea, like, that was really gross. It was like having water that wasn't just clear crystal, like fresh water. It was like having water with something in it, but it was hot. So it was like gross. It was just like warm grossness in the water. And you're like, what is that taste? The tea leaves. So it was just like really creepy, warm, hot water with some weird sort of flavoring to it, but not really. Yeah, that was very unpleasant. I didn't like that. But that also was what tipped me off that maybe I'm not tasting things right. Like, maybe it's me. So I ran to the fridge and I grabbed the first thing that I thought had a very specific flavor to it, and what I opted for was ranch dressing. Like, if you have ranch dressing, you know it's ranch dressing. It can't be anything else. And I put some ranch dressing in my mouth, and I put some ranch dressing in my mouth, and then that tasted like nothing. It tasted like nothing, and the consistency of dressing not being on lettuce or like on a sandwich or something or on a vegetable is totally gross. So I just like had this nasty like feeling in my mouth. I'm like, this is terrible. But that's when it tipped me off that like maybe I had COVID, and that's when I made the appointment. So naturally, by the end of the night, I was tasting nothing, and I was kind of freaking out. So over the next couple of days, my husband and I were trying to see if I could taste anything. It became like a curiosity thing. And also, like, he felt bad because I was pretty down about not being able to taste anything. So, like, we were trying all these different things, and I wasn't getting literally anything. And I was so disappointed because, like, he was making things that I really like. So I felt like I was just wasting it because I couldn't taste it. And then I got to the point where I found one thing that I could actually taste when I could taste literally nothing else. And for some reason, my mother's neighbor who had COVID, and this isn't related to my case, like I've never been in contact with either of them. Well, since the pandemic, I've been in contact with my mother at one point. But the only thing, because she couldn't taste anything either, the only thing she could taste was the same thing I could taste. So I'm not sure if there's something with COVID, everyone gets stuff different, and like the severity's different and the symptoms are different, but that's why I thought this was really unusual that we could only taste this one thing, and that was it, and both of us could taste it. And that was roasted bell peppers. And it wasn't like you could taste it perfectly. How I would describe it is like a muffled taste where you couldn't really taste everything. It was like a more subdued sort of flavoring of it, but you could tell what it was. And that was it. So about a week goes by and I start getting my taste back. Also, fair to mention, at some point during the same night, I noticed that I lost my sense of taste. I also noticed I lost my sense of smell. So I went around like sniffing everything, like trying to smell stuff. I could smell nothing, and it didn't matter if it was like perfume or like food or like my dog's breath. Like I couldn't smell anything. And it was funny because at one point I went into the bedroom when I was testing out my sense of smell, and I put perfume on my wrist, and then I took a sniff and I couldn't smell it. So then I put like a few more spritzes on, and then I tried to smell it again and I still got nothing. And I was like, like that's weird. So I went and I was like telling my husband, like, I can't smell anything. He's like, oh my God, you smell terrible. Because apparently I had way too much perfume on. And like, if I could illustrate this, I probably would have had like stink lines coming off of me. I put so much on, but like I was really trying to smell it, but I wasn't getting anything. And I didn't notice not smelling things until I noticed not tasting things. But yeah, the sense of smell, I don't know when I exactly lost it either, so I just, Anyway, so when my taste started coming back, I noticed that I was tasting some subdued flavors first. So like, one for me was white cheddar cheese doodles. That came back before some other things. So like at one point I had a meal for dinner that was literally just Cheetos, which is gross and like so not adult like to do, but I was like, dude, I need to taste something. I'm so depressed. Like these Cheetos are gonna be my dinner. I'm so happy I sort of taste them, and I was just so happy, you know. But yeah, and things started to come back. So I would describe it as a muffled taste. Everything came back really subdued, really muffled, and then it kind of got enhanced with time. One thing I don't recommend you eat is Triscuits, because without any flavor whatsoever, because they have flavored Triscuits, but they also have original Triscuits, which still have a flavor to them. It's Triscuit flavor, but like, they have a flavor, but with no sense of flavor. And the texture, Triscuits are terrible. Oh my, I had to like just cough it up. My husband's like, couldn't you have just swallowed it? I'm like, no, you don't understand. It was disgusting. Like, it was the worst thing ever, is just having a Triscuit when you can't taste anything about a Triscuit, because then it gets creepy, like what's in my mouth and what's happening, and it's just, I did not like that. I guess I should mention also, before I get too far down the path I'm going, was when I wasn't tasting anything, we did try other things that we thought would work based on the roasted peppers. So we tried some spicy stuff. So I had like chicken tikka masala that didn't taste like anything. And then I had some hot sauce, which I don't like hot sauce, but it has peppers in it. So we figured, hey, pepper, maybe this pepper you can taste too. And all that felt like was burning. So you got the capsaicin burning feeling, but it didn't taste like anything. And then my husband was curious, so he gave me some of his whiskey or whatever, and that just tasted like nothing and also burned. So, you know, the sense of taste was dead. There was nothing but roasted peppers there. So I don't know why. Very interesting. I have no clue why. So anyway, I'm getting my taste back, and I noticed that the very last flavor to get back, which was the first one I noticed losing, was citrus. So that one was stubborn about returning, and I'm not sure if I'm still, like, I can taste it pretty good, but I'm not sure if I get the full citrus flavor just yet. But I'm happy that I have it at all, so I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's like very interesting. First thing to lose, last thing to come back. As for the sense of smell, I run around trying to sniff everything. I feel like a dog. I'm like, is something smelling? Like I'll cook something, I'll like stick my face in it and be like, that's that smell, and I don't get anything like whatsoever. Also, I just want to mention cooking when you can't taste anything is the weirdest thing ever, because you know it doesn't even matter what you do. You're not going to taste it, but you're trying not to ruin it for your husband. So you're like, I hope this tastes good. And he's like, it tastes good. And I'm like, I don't believe you. Like, I know it probably doesn't taste good. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. I'm guessing. I have no clue what's going on. But back to smell. So I'd run around trying to smell things, and when my sense of smell started to come back, it came back in like whiffs, I guess is how I would describe it, where you'd get a whiff of a smell and then you turn around and be like, oh my god, what was that? And like you try to smell for it, like sniff for it again, and you got nothing. So like you'd get like this muffled scent of something, know and be alert that there's a smell around, but not be able to like pick up the smell again or whatever. Like I'd be a very bad tracking hound or something. Be like, oh, she lost the trail again. And I'd be like, sorry guys, I got COVID. I always had like a pretty good sense of smell. Like I could always tell, like you go into a restaurant, I knew exactly who was the person who had BO, and I'd be like, he's over there on the other side of the room, and like he's in the other room over there, like pretty far away stuff. Like I could smell things really, really well, which was weird because, you know, if there's a fire or if you have a gas leak and you can't smell anything, it's actually dangerous to not be able to smell. Where like if you can't taste, I mean, I guess my husband could have poisoned me. I wouldn't know, but like, I don't think he would. Anyway, but like when you can't smell anything, it's also like, gosh, like I hope nothing bad happens during this time. So smelling was really difficult, and that came back pretty slowly, but I'm still not sure that my sniffer is up to snuff, so I think my snout is still broken. I used to be able to smell things in other rooms and be like, what was that? What's going on in there? And then like run in there and see, you know, or like, I don't know, it's just, I feel like it's still kind of not where it should be. Maybe like the radius of where I can smell. Like maybe I should be able to smell farther, but like I'm not quite there yet. I'm still regaining my smelling ability. But anyway, that's my story. I hope you found it interesting. I would be very interested to hear if you can't taste anything, like if you've had this experience where you can't taste anything, if you were able to taste roasted peppers. I think that's really, really fascinating. Also, another question I have is if you go through the fridge and you're looking for something with a very distinct flavor to see if you can still taste, what would you take out of your fridge? Yeah, I took out the ranch dressing. That was a mistake in retrospect, because without taste, that felt gross. Ugh. In closing, be kind to one another, try to respect one another, give each other as much space as you can, and wear a mask. Try your best to remain clean, wash your hands, all these good things, because even if you don't get COVID, you can still give it to someone else. And you don't know how it's going to affect someone else. You know, I really thought if I got sick because of my medical condition that I would be really bad off, and I was totally fine. My uncle, he died earlier this year, or last year rather, which was really quite traumatic. And this was at the very beginning of everything when it was running rampant through nursing homes. And, you know, that can still there's still plenty of people that are dying, so try to be as careful as you possibly can and be respectful of other people. And you can only do your best, because I know in some circumstances you can't really help getting it, you know, and that's kind of difficult to not be able to control like your own fate. So I understand it's awful. I'm sorry if you've lost anybody, or if anyone that you care about is sick, or you know, things like that. I hope everybody is happy and safe and healthy, and everybody that they care about is happy, safe, and healthy. And we'll talk again soon in another video. Take care, guys.